This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's edition of Doc and Jock. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, as always, my cousin Adam, the Jock Strozinski, here this week to break down Super Bowl 56, all the happenings surrounding Matthew Stafford, his victory celebration, what his role was in the victory. Lions fans really showing their desperation at the highest levels. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to mix in some Pistons. I know we don't talk a whole heck of a lot about Detroit Pistons because at the time of this recording, as they're playing the Celtics, losers of 12 of 13 games. Why on earth would we talk about them? But they made a deal. So we'll take a look at what they've done. But, man, because the Super Bowl has now occurred. The football season 2021 has now concluded. The Los Angeles Rams sealed the deal. Matthew fucking Stafford, 1 season removed from the Lions, now has a Lombardi trophy, a ring, and has really shattered all the narratives about what he has done as a professional.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Lions fan, I feel like this kind of needs to be a cold glass of reality for you. And if you're a Matt Stafford fan, I know you're celebrating, because believe me, all those Matt Stafford fans just felt the need to text me the day after the Super Bowl, asking if my opinion of Matt Stafford has changed. In reality, look, I think what he did was great for the Rams. I think it was great for LA. It obviously hurts Detroit because that draft pick moves from possibly being a mid-20s pick to now being the very last pick of the first round. But I think if anything, Matt Stafford and his performance in LA just kind of validated everything that I had thought, everything that I had knew about Matt Stafford. Look, Matt Stafford is the same exact guy that he was when he was here. Guy who will go out, throw for 2, maybe 3 touchdowns, will throw for 1 or 2 interceptions. One of those interceptions might kill you and might kill your chance to win the ball game. He's a guy who, in crunch time, for some reason, seems to really come up big, and he has nerves of steel, but sometimes he just finds ways to lose games. Now, in this playoff run, he played incredible football, played exceptional. But what you've seen with this run with the Rams should tell you everything you need to know about Matt Stafford. I mean, he is a guy who obviously needs more pieces around him, needs to be more insulated. When he was here in Detroit, I mean, really, he had Calvin Johnson. And then when Calvin Johnson was there, he had Golden Tate. There was a short period there where he had Golden Tate and Calvin Johnson. And it might have been one of their more productive offenses when he had more pieces and more guys around him. He also has a really good defense in LA, has a defense that has the ability to make a stop when needed. You know, a defense that when he gets you the lead, they can go out there and they can either force a turnover or they can put the nail in the coffin and get you the win. He didn't have that here in Detroit. So would things have been different if he had more pieces around him, if he was more insulated? Yeah, I think so. All that being said, Matt Stafford's not a quarterback. Like, let's just take that off the table. I don't think he's a great quarterback. Do I think he's a good quarterback? Yeah, I think he's a good quarterback. I think Matt Stafford falls in line, depending on what day it is. I think Matt Stafford falls in line with being a top 15 to a top 8 quarterback. At no point is he an elite quarterback in this league. He's not on the same level or in the same tier as a guy like Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady when Tom Brady was playing, Drew Brees when Drew Brees was playing. He's not on a level of like Patrick Mahomes or even a Josh Allen at this point in his career. He's just not there. I think if you were looking for a comparison to an elite quarterback that he might be somewhere near or somewhere on par with, it might be Josh Allen because of the arm strength and the ability to sometimes improvise plays. But if you ask me right now, do you take Joe Burrow? Do you take Matt Stafford? I'm taking Joe Burrow every day of the week because I feel like Joe Burrow's on the cusp of becoming an elite quarterback. But look, thought the Super Bowl was great. I enjoyed it. Even though my team lost, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun Super Bowl. Thought halftime was good. What did you make of the Super Bowl? What was your reaction to what we got to see, not just with the game, but with the Super Bowl halftime show and kind of everything that kind of gets wrapped up in the Super Bowl? Because I'll tell you this much. I was shocked and I was surprised. They did a 4-hour pregame show. Like, that is crazy to me. 4 hours before the game, they're trying to get you hyped for it. Like you weren't already hyped for it as it was.
Well,
they're doing a 4-hour pre-show.
No, cuz you do it light. NFL Network does 8.5 hours, and I taped it. I watch, usually Super Bowl Sunday, I try to watch at least 5 hours of the NFL Network's pregame. So I take it all in. Now, the girls play soccer, so it was broken up, but I taped it. So with the new Mad Dish Hopper, I got it all on tape, and I taped the Super Bowl. So I have no worries. I can go back, and later on in the year, I got the AFC, NFC title games, and the Super Bowl pregame if I want to get my football fix. But I do want to look at a couple things with Stafford and the Super Bowl. On one hand, you know, obviously the Rams, and I said it in my predictions at SIO Lions, the Rams had a feel like they were a team of destiny. I mean, you had Von Miller, you had OBJ, you had probably arguably the best player in the world in Cooper Kupp doing his thing. Matthew Stafford was really primed with all his weapons. And then you had Sean McVay, a young, really talented head coach offensively, a wizard, you know, comes from football lineage. He's doing his thing. He's learned from a Super Bowl loss in which his team with the Rams led by Jared Goff scored 3 points. So it all came together. It had that feel. But within the Super Bowl, the Bengals got the momentum in the second half. And you look at it, coaching decisions late in games sometimes really, really are highlighted and magnified. And for me, I was screaming and cussing in front of my nephew and young kids because it was repeatedly 4th down and Zach Taylor was going for it early in the game in shotgun. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing? It's 4th and 1. What the fuck are you doing? It was like coming out of my mouth like, and then my nephew was like not, of course he's heard the F word before, so he was gravitating toward what does shotgun mean? I'm like, the fucking quarterback is 5 yards behind the center. They need 3 feet. What are you doing? Fine. You made the mistake early in the game. Crunch time, the Rams score the touchdown. Fine. It's the way it's gonna go. It's an offensive league. Joe Burrow gets the football. And the first play is luscious to Jamar Chase, who gets obviously some yards to move things forward. All the Bengals needed was a field goal. It's 3rd and 1, and you give it to some scrub? Why is it Mixon there? And then the refs maybe should have did a spot because the guy put his arms out. Fine. No problem. You don't go to Joe Mixon, no problem. It's 4th down. You, Zach Taylor, and I tweeted out right after the play happened, you call that play on 4th down? What the hell are you thinking? My God, what are you doing? It's like a complete disrespect of Aaron Donald. When when Sean McVay is screaming, oh, Aaron, it's your time. I know he's going to make a play. The play has to go. You should have literally I know Burrow was hurt, but he had to find a way to scramble to the right or do exactly what the Rams did and give it to a wide receiver on a handoff from under center. I know Burrow's injury might have factored into it, but going shotgun on 4th down, they deserve to lose. They only needed was a field goal. You needed 15 yards. So that's where Zach Taylor's inexperience comes in. And by God, cuz if that shit happens with the Lions and they're in a position to win and they start doing that shit, we're just going to go live right then and there and just go holy hell, because I was like, what is he doing? I was so mad because literally the way in which that game was, I was disappointed by the officials kind of taking their flags out of their pockets finally at the end of the game when they did it. At the very
end?
Yeah, when they should have.
Let's talk about that for a second. Let's talk about that for a second, because there were a couple issues. And look, I don't want to blame the outcome of this game on the refs, but there was a complete blown false start where 5 guys on the offensive line jumped. The only one who didn't was the center who was snapping the ball. I think it even surprised Matt Stafford. So no call there. And then you talk about the hold near the end zone. That was just a linebacker making a play on what we can call an elite wide receiver. That was
right.
Clean, good play. Now, the pass interference in the end zone, yes. But if you factor in those 2 plays, it changes the entire landscape of what ends up taking place, because the no call for the false start, I believe that was, you were 3rd and goal. So now that moves you back 5 more yards. And then the play to Cooper Kupp that was called a hold that gave you a first down, that was 3rd and goal as well. I think those were the same exact play. So you move back, the one penalty comes off the board, and now you're 5 yards even further out. And I think it makes it that much harder. The end of the game was incredibly frustrating if you are a Bengals fan.
Yeah, you gotta be frustrated. You gotta be like, what the heck happened here? You had it. That's what you need. You're Joe Burrow. You need to lead your offense. I know you maybe were aggressive and wanted to go for the touchdown, but all you needed to do was get to overtime and take your chances. And they came up short. And that's what happens when you're young and inexperienced. But kudos to the Bengals, man. They showed you that you can rise up at a moment's notice with a couple of good drafts and really take advantage of some key situations. Bro, their defense was legit. The OBJ injury, when you look at it, that kind of took a little bit of the luster out of the game because he was balling and he was really starting to shine and develop that chemistry with Matthew Stafford. And by God, he probably would have had 2 or 3 touchdowns, might have even lost an MVP because of his blown ACL. But really, the Rams, when you're a good team, you can rely upon 2 of the best players in the world, one on offense and one on defense. And for me, my reaction was I was cool with the halftime show. Me personally, hip hop is my jam, so I enjoyed it. But, it was kind of more like a trip down memory lane where I wasn't blown away by anything. I wasn't sitting there. I was dancing a little bit, having a good time. The alcohol was flowing, so it made it fun. But it wasn't like I felt like it was the baddest thing I've ever seen. But I just think that people wanted to go down memory lane and they liked it. Me personally, I still think it can probably number 2, number 3 in the annals of time because of the pure firepower, but and the star power. But I thought the Prince one was number 1 for me. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Janet Jackson and discovering what live boobies on TV meant was really cool for me. I was like, oh, they did that. That was cool. So that ranks up there, and then you got this one. So for that, the experience was great. I had a fun time with it. Food was flowing, drinks were flowing. I was into it, and I was cheering for the Bengals to win it. Not because I'm mad at Matthew Stafford. I tweeted out, I said, go get it. You have the chance. Go get it. I'm not going to hate on the man, but when I look at the whole situation with Matthew Stafford, I'm bummed out because I see everybody's thrilled. I see the Detroit Rams. I see everybody's living vicariously through.
Oh, dude, the Detroit Rams stuff just pissed me off.
Yeah. And here's my thinking on it. Okay, and I get it now. And I was talking to people about it and philosophizing, and I get it. It would be easy for me to build my brand just being a fanboy and being like, oh my God, I love Matthew Stafford. Oh my God. I said the Lions should have realized it wasn't going to work. Now, people then shifted the argument to their own favor in regards to, oh, can he ever win it? Would he win another team? It doesn't matter to me where he's at if he's not in Detroit. The Lions had an opportunity to move on from Stafford, and they did not. They gave him a contract extension. Now people will say, oh, you're not going to move on from a quarterback in his prime. Every quarterback was making $25 million plus. Okay, fine. Look what you got. You still got nothing. So in the end, Matthew Stafford in Detroit did not accomplish anything. And it would be easy for me to just be up here and just blame the Lions. Oh, the Lions this and the Lions that. Everyone knows already. It's not news. Everyone knows already within the context of football, the Lions organization's shit. Everyone knows that. The Ford family doesn't know what they're doing. It's obvious. So now what people have done, and actually, cuz, to be honest, for all the Lions fans that listen in and want the truth, you all are turncoats. You all have decided that the team doesn't matter anymore. We're going to root for the players. And that's fine. That is within your right. I get it. You're disappointed. You're pissed. You're mad. You recognize your organization's shit. But a real fan is a fan of the organization, not the players. I mean, yeah, the players are the ones that are working hard and things like that, but they're the ones that get turned over 35%. The roster guys turns over so fast. I get it. Matthew Stafford was the best thing that you ever saw to play the quarterback position. But bottom line, he gave you memories, but he didn't give you the ultimate memory. He ain't up there drinking a 1942 tequila with a Lions jersey on, getting bombed and partying. He walked in and said, I am out. Leave. I don't want to do this anymore. He could have fought to stay. He could have took a Cabo vacation with Dan Campbell and said, okay, get me some guys. This is what I need. It's a new regime. He didn't do it. He didn't want to go through a rebuild. He didn't want to go through that process. So I get what you guys have done. You've glommed onto this success as a way of, making yourself feel better. But guys, you didn't win shit. You are viewed now as losers by everybody in the country except for the state of Michigan. You guys are acting like losers. This is what losers do, is they glom onto the success of others. This is loser behavior. I understand it. I recognize why you're doing it. You want to cheer. It's easy to just call yourself Pride of Detroit and everything's gravy, everything's great. That's easy to do. I could do that all day, and I could gain millions of followers, going on the radio and acting like a fanboy and just cheering all day. That's easy to do, really. But it's hard to sit here and say, no, I'm not going to do that. Once he leaves, once he says, I'm out, I'm out. That's the way it's supposed to go. And that's what a lot of our fans are telling me on Twitter at Detroit Podcast is, I'm tired of the Stafford coverage. I'm tired of you guys blowing up Matthew Stafford. I get it, but I still have to do it, guys, because, the other half is reading the shit out of the other half is reading the shit out of Matthew Stafford. So I still got to do it, guys. Sorry, it's my job. But I get it. I hear you. Matthew Stafford is not a Detroit Lion. He's not a Detroit Ram. He left. So Adam, are fans of the Detroit Lions. We're not fanboys up here trying to glom on to the success of somebody. It's not real. You don't get a ring. You get to cheer. Yeah, you can do that. But it's not real. You are pretending. You are, and I want to give it to you straight, in the land of denial. You don't get it. Your franchise, your team sucks. And the best player that you had told you guys you suck to your face. He waved the finger in your face. He knocked you out. He gave you the super kick. And you guys got up and said, give me more, please. I need to feel some love. I need to glom on Stafford's nuts. Are you kidding me? This is Detroit, guys. Come on. This is not the fan base I know. We don't glom on people's nuts who tell us that they hate us. And I know he loves the fans and he's a supporter, but I'm talking about in the realm of sports. In the sports realm, he gave you the finger. He gave it to you without the Vaseline. He gave it to you in the worst way possible, and then you're just like, the worst case of Stockholm Syndrome in the history of sports is you guys going out there and wanting to throw a parade for the guy to cheer for him. Now, I'm not regulating your behavior. Go out there and do it, but you look soft, you look weak, and it is not only bad now for the Lions, it's bad for you. So shame on you for acting like that, because for me, and look, I get it. I would like to be that way. Oh, be happy and stuff. No, the more that he's celebrating, the more pissed off I am. And I know Cousin Adam is feeling the same way because he gets it. He's a fan of the team. He's not trying to glom on Matthew Stafford's nuts because Stafford, in his Gucci bag, ignored Adam in the elevator. When Adam would go say, hey, when Adam would go to cover him, this is how he treated a fan. He was like, who are you? He's like, go, you want to carry my bags? I'll give you a $5 tip. Adam's like, no, I'm a reporter. He's like, you are? And Stafford's like, no, stop joking around. Here's my bags. Take them to the car out there. It's the Ford F-150. Adam's like, no, I'm going to write about you. And then Adam would ask a question and then he just would blow him off. That's what he would do to you. Now out in L.A., he's getting bombed and he's the guy. Come on, guys. Come on. Don't act like that. And you're not going to get that from Doc and Jock. I don't care what it costs me. I don't care how many fans I don't get because I don't care how many bad reviews I get on iTunes. you guys are acting stupid and soft.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you just need to be better. Honestly, just be better. Here's the thing. Matt Stafford, this is what's so weird to me, too. Matt Stafford going to L.A. and winning in L.A., if you're a Lions fan, it doesn't help you. It just hurts you.
Yeah,
the whole thing with this trade, right, was it's supposed to help jumpstart this rebuild. So now you end up moving from a draft position of, we'll say, 24, where, and like, I've got like 9 mock drafts up right now. Like, because we're going to talk about some stuff later on in the show. And you could get a guy who is going to make a damn near immediate impact at 24, a guy who could really help you out, and you'd have a much better chance of getting that guy who's going to make that immediate impact. Instead, now you're drafting at 32. Not saying that guy's not going to make an impact, because the expectation is he's going to make an impact. But the difference is this right here. You could get a guy like Nakobe Dean, right? Georgia linebacker, a guy who you could who could really help solidify that linebacking core. You could get a guy like that. Instead, you're now looking at taking a guy like Devontae Watt, defensive tackle, or you're looking at taking a safety, or you're looking at taking a guy like Jahan Dotson, a wide receiver, or you're looking at taking a guy like Roger McCready, a cornerback out of Auburn. You know, like it just changes what you have available to you. When you're that much higher up in the draft, I mean, basically the world is your landscape. Just go and pick what you want. And here's the thing. You're going to get a good player at 32. And I have faith in Brad Holmes when it comes to drafting, because I've seen what he did with last year's draft. And I'll be honest with you, I was pleasantly surprised. So you're going to get a good player. But it's the difference between getting a guy who's an all-pro or getting a guy who's a Pro Bowl player. Okay? Pro Bowl players, yeah, you're really good. But all-pro players are great. And that's the difference. And that's what you could get, and that's what you could have. So that's where the frustration really should lie if you're a Lions fan. And it made no sense to me why so many people globbed on to Matt Stafford in this run. Like, you should have been cursing him. You should have been upset with them. Like, especially this year. Because you need a ton of help. You know? And here's the thing. I hope next year the Rams fall flat on their face. I hope next year the Rams suck. Do you know why? Because the Lions need a freaking quarterback. They don't have a quarterback. There's not a quarterback worth taking in this draft. So you're going to probably need to put your draft picks together, the one that you got from the Rams, as well as the one that you have next year, to move up to go get that guy. So it is completely frustrating to watch a guy like Matt Stafford basically kill your team again. Like, he's like, I want out, I'm gone. And like you said, he was the best player on the team. Kills your team. Goes to L.A., and any chance you have of helping to rebuild yourself, he basically kills that because he goes out and wins a Super Bowl. It's just, you should be frustrated. And the fact that you're not it's just crazy to me. Absolutely bonkers to me.
And does Brad Holmes at all in your mind? Maybe you start to look at him in a little bit of a different light, realizing that sometimes it's tough to make these decisions. Now, he comes to your office, Matthew Stafford, and says, I want out. Do you potentially say, no, I don't care, and force it? But I think that they wanted to do Matthew Stafford a solid, and they gave him an opportunity to go to a team. I think it's really good for the organization in terms of player morale to allow him. And I think there's some recognition that the organization realized that, man, this guy had some talent and we just didn't do enough. But I think they recognized finally it just wasn't going to work out for whatever reason, and they needed to pivot to go into a rebuild mode. But in the end, we now have to wait and see. It's too early to assess who won the trade. Now, the Rams got out to a great head start because they got a ring, they went all in, and they got what they needed. And the shitty part is you get the remnants of Jared Goff. You get the guy that they felt was like, thanks, Jared, for your contribution to our success, but we want Matthew Stafford. And now he gets to I would love to see personally what it was like for Jared Goff to watch that. And you feel bad for Michael Brockers. He was there. They lost. And now they come to Detroit in an entirely new situation. But you had a deal on the table with the Panthers. The Carolina Panthers gave you number 8, which could have given you the premier offensive lineman and the premier linebacker. Whereas today on Wednesday, you're hearing that the Lions blew out their inside linebacker coach in Mark DeLeone. The linebackers sucked. They played horrible. And they were in a position to not do what they needed to be doing. And now you're sitting here and you're like, okay, we got to see what Brad Holmes can do at 32 and 34 and with the additional first rounder next year. Because you already got the first piece of the trade. You got Ifeatu Melifonwu with the additional pick that you secured. So now it's up to Brad Holmes. The ball is in his court. Now my confidence is wavering a little bit, because 32 is tough. And I just pray that 31 or 30 doesn't end up being an all-time legend. Because I'm not saying they're going to be an all-pro, but I'm saying I'm worried they're going to be an all-time legend. Like, you've already passed on Aaron Donald. Because it wasn't just Stafford. A'Shawn Robinson and, Matthew Stafford had the opportunity.
Brandon Powell, too.
And Brandon Powell and Aaron Donald, who should have been in Detroit.
Yeah.
Should have been in Detroit. So when you look at the Stafford deal, do you say, does it bother you at all that he went to the Rams and got the ring, or do you say good for him and the Lions maybe just took one on the chin for the betterment of morale moving forward because Stafford is the culmination of bad relationships and bad things and kind of, is that kind of like maybe a baptism in regards to culture? Like, hey, let's just do this guy a solid wherever he wants to go. He wants to Cabo. He wants to move out to LA. He wants to have that life. Let's just give it to him. I wouldn't have done it. I would have took the best deal, and I would have potentially taken the Panthers deal because I think Bridgewater's maybe a little bit better than Jared Goff. But, you got to also remember Brad Holmes comes from LA. So he can sell that to people. So what do you make when you reevaluate the Stafford deal? Does it bother you? Or do you say, you know what, we still got a lot of toys that we can unwrap with these 2 first rounders?
So I think you can look at the trade with Matt Stafford, and instantly you're like, this didn't age well. This is a bad trade for Detroit. Detroit gets hurt with this. Now, if you go back and you remember when the trade happened, I think 95% of everybody was ecstatic with it because you ended up getting 2 first-round picks, and you ended up getting an additional third-round pick. So I think kind of looking at how it's aged, yes, you can be upset with it. I think if I had to do it all over again, and knowing that the Carolina trade, and again, we believe the Carolina trade is 100% accurate. Knowing what you could have gotten at that time, does that make you a better team? Yes, I think that makes you a better team here and now and in the present. But I think I still would have took the 2 first-round picks as well as the additional third. And yes, it hurts that trade happened with the Rams. Now, if you trade him to Carolina, does Carolina get as far as the Rams? Do they end up winning a Super Bowl? I don't think they do. So that draft pick that is now 32 is probably somewhere in the mid-20s like we were talking earlier, and that helps you a lot more. But I don't think what ends up happening here with this trade, I don't think it has fully aged yet. I think right now, yeah, it looks horrible. It looks bad on Brad Holmes. You traded with your compadres over in LA. You basically gave Matt Stafford exactly what he wanted, and you know what? It came back and it bit you in the ass. That being said, he has the ability to reshape and transform the way we look at that trade. So yes, right now it's bad, but if Brad Holmes goes out and he nails the 32nd pick, and he goes out and he nails next year's additional first round pick, and he nails that third round pick, it all works out. And then you're like, okay, cool. It's not quite the Marshall Faulk trade where everybody points to how the Cowboys basically jump started their dynasty, but it is a much better way to look at the Lions possibly fixing some of the ills that they have. So, yeah, right now, doesn't look great. But it has the chance. Like, it's not done yet. The book's not closed. It's not written. It looks bad right now, but it can change. And I hope to God, for you and me, that this shit changes. Because You need Brand Holmes to really go out and knock it out of the ballpark in this year's draft, and he's got to crush next year's draft. And hopefully next year's draft, he can get the quarterback that this team desperately needs. I think the hope was, and look, this is kind of how these things work out, right? This is why I was so critical of the Lions drafting at 3 back in, 2019, when they took Numbnuts from Ohio State, the cornerback. This is why I was so upset with it, because it doesn't happen very often where you're drafting in the top 3, much less the top 5, and you have the ability to go out there and get a game-changing quarterback. Look at this year. They're drafting 2nd. You don't want any of these quarterbacks. You don't want to take any of these quarterbacks in the first round. That's how bad you want to stay away from them. So when you have the ability to go out and grab a quarterback early in the draft, there's no reason why you don't take a guy like Tua or Justin Herbert. And I think at this point we can all agree Justin Herbert was the better choice of those two guys, at least right now, the way it sets. Okay? But all that being said, you should have taken your quarterback then, because you get into positions like you are now where you've got a 2nd overall pick, but there's no quarterback worth that. So now you're stuck taking possibly a defensive end out of Michigan who there's some question marks about. Or you get stuck taking a defensive end out of Oregon who has question marks and maybe has a higher ceiling, but there's still a bunch of red flags and some question marks there. So you just don't do yourself any favors. So next year, if this team gets better, right, and the hope is that this team gets better than it was this past season, you are now drafting further back. So how do you get up to get that quarterback? Because generally when a team's drafting number 1 overall, they usually need a quarterback. It's very rare that you'll see a Jacksonville Jaguars basically having the number 1 pick last year and then having the number 1 pick in back-to-back years to go get the quarterback or have the opportunity to draft whoever they want at number 1. It usually doesn't happen like that. So, how does Detroit maneuver that? And how does Detroit navigate that? It becomes really, really difficult. And Brad Holmes has now found himself in a bit of a spot where he really has to nail this year's draft. And he has to figure out a way to be clutch next year to be able to go get that quarterback. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, it's going to be very tough. But it's up to Brad Holmes. And remember, he was the architect of getting Cooper Kupp. He was the architect of drafting a lot of these players that showed up on the Rams. So we have an opportunity to see what he can do with solid picks. 32 and 34. Now, the consensus online that I get from those that message at Detroit Podcast, SIO Lions, and everything like that on the podcast, the general sense I get is that people want defense. Defensive end, pass rushers, linebackers, safety, cornerback depth. I get it. I can understand that. But I would be okay if they went offense the first 3 picks. I wouldn't mind if they traded down and then potentially looked at 32 and 34, 2 wide receivers. If they looked at players that could be impactful, a quarterback and a wide receiver, something that could be really of help to the Lions. And you look at it and you say, look, it's an offensive league. You saw what 2 talented offenses in the Super Bowl. Your eye saw it. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow. You can target. You're going to have an extra 3rd-round compensatory pick. You're going to have darn near 3 of them. You can get all the help you need on defense if your scouting department tells you. The high-end talent probably needs to come at wide receiver. A Jahan Dotson, a Jamison Williams, Drake London. I would go that route if you're going to go basic and go chalk. Okay, 2 Aiden Hutchinson or Thibodeau, depending on how that shakes out at the top. And then you go 32, 34, wide receiver, and go there and try to get talented individuals. Because, look, Jamar Chase single-handedly almost carried Joe Burrow. So why not do it if you can find top-end talent you believe that can take the top off of defenses, add depth to that room? I would not be opposed or devastatingly pissed if they went offense with 32 and 34. Now, can there be positions to maybe move up? Maybe package that with something else to move up? Maybe they do it if they fall in love with players. We still got the combine. So for me, philosophically, I'm okay with kind of how it's shaking out. The one position that I would question is quarterback. Sam Howell, Malik Willis kind of seem like long-term projects, and I'm more into the sure thing, but it doesn't seem like they're that. Could they turn it around in their career? Maybe. But in Detroit, I would rather wait for the high-end talent and make sure that you hit on a quarterback. And by and large, nobody likes this class. So what do you think the Lions need to do at 32 and 34? What gets you all excited when you look at the opportunity to draft some top players in the early part of this year's draft?
So I think the best case scenario, because this team is so devoid of all talents on basically both sides of the ball, is you've got to go best player available, right? I think without a doubt, no matter what the position is, you're going best player available. And what I would like them to do, and I don't care how they do it, is what I would like them to do is to go defense, wide receiver. When you get into this part of the draft, it looks like there's going to be a plethora of talented wide receivers available for you. So whether that's a guy like Jahan Dotson, a guy like Chris Olave, there are a ton of other guys. Drake London might fall to you. Not really sure. If there was a guy that I could target and would want to be there, it would probably be a guy like Drake London. I would absolutely love if he was there for this team to be able to go out and grab him. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, there's going to have to be a whole lot that kind of happens. But if for some reason Nakobe Dean falls, I'd be pumped. I'd be ecstatic. I've seen projections where Dax Hill will probably be available for the Lions, so helping to kind of shore up that safety in the secondary. They need another cornerback, so you could see them go and grab another cornerback. This team needs help all over the place, but I think going defense and grabbing the best available player, no matter where he plays, whether it's edge, whether it's inside on that defensive line, whether it is a linebacker, it is a safety, or it is a cornerback, you need to really bolster that defense. Who I'd be ecstatic if he fell. I already mentioned Nakobe Dean, right? If what is his name? He's out of Purdue. George
Karlaftis. Yep. George Karlaftis. Yep.
If George Karlaftis could fall, bro. Could you imagine, because we both pretty much feel they're going to go defensive end at 2. Could you imagine getting your 2 defensive ends in this draft for the next 5 years to come? Like, how great would that be? You know what I'm saying? You can pair these guys and let these guys just go wreak havoc all over the place. That would be fantastic. And then you can come back and you could grab a guy like a Chris Olave in the beginning of that second round. So now you've addressed a major need on offense, and you basically have upgraded your front of your front 7 of your defense, which then translates to making your back end so much better. But that's kind of what I would do. Then that's kind of how I'm looking at it. And until, look, when the combine rolls around, things will change and different players will start shooting up, and we'll have more conversations, and we'll have a little bit more knowledge to talk about these guys with. But for me right now, that's my mindset. I'm going best player available, defense, and I'm going wide receiver, whoever the best wide receiver available is.
Not bad. I'm like I said, with Brad Holmes, I think there's a great opportunity to still be hopeful, but I know the doubt is always there. It always has to seep in, right, in regards to the Lions, like what's going to happen. Are they going to make the right pick? Are they going to really hit on what they need to hit on? And it's so tough because it just right now looks like, man, it does look like Brad Holmes really just did what he needed to do in order to make things smooth sailing for Matthew Stafford. I mean, literally, things fell his way. And I think it is football karma. It is that he played in Detroit. He played in a situation that was so bad, so toxic, that, not drafting Aaron Donald, it literally fell for him perfectly. I mean, you just look at how that shook out. The refs don't throw flags that often. All of a sudden, late in the game, they just start dropping. It just had to feel.
And like the way that game was called, it was like there was no penalties really the entire game, and then all of a sudden, it's just I get what you're saying. It's frustrating.
It is very frustrating. So it is what it is. We now turn our attention heavily to the draft. We try to bring back hope season, but this was a dagger, man. This sucks because, it really hits home to that, we've heard it 1,000 times. The Lions organization sucks. We joke about it, but we joke because we're trying to mask the pain. It sucks to hear. And that's why fans are just trying to find any semblance of happiness because they don't want to just sit there and boo their team and not root for something. So fans want to cheer. Fans want to cheer. I understand it. But bottom line, in this situation, Matthew Stafford is no longer a Detroit Lion, and he's not coming back. We can joke about that. We can have fun with that narrative. But if he comes back here, something's really, really wrong with him because he tasted glory. He tasted what outside success looks like. Why would he come back to this mess? And it's up
There's
to
no way he's ever coming back here.
Yeah, no, I would never believe that in a million years.
My man sold his $6 million house and upgraded to a $20 million house.
Right,
he ain't coming back.
He ain't coming back. So we look at it, and Detroit sports has to turn around because that was a gut punch. You look at Stafford, Verlander, those that got away that have had success. So are you kidding me? But I get it. Like I said, I give credit to those that are doing it. But bottom line, when you're a real fan of the team, I think the real fans are hurting and they're tired of seeing this kind of situation. The first year Stafford leaves and he gets the ring. That is the mark of the Detroit Lions. Now, similarly, the mark of the Pistons is to have up and downs, struggle, not putting the biscuit in the basket, really having an opportunity to watch a couple of the losses here in this 12-13 run here of losses. They had to make a move. They decided to move on and get rid of a couple young players and things like that, guys that were just not going to be part of the long-term rebuild. And they get Marvin Bagley, who many felt, had the potential to be a Piston when he got drafted. Number 2 pick, goes to Sacramento. Similar to the Lions, the Sacramento Kings are just the wasteland of the NBA, where what you do doesn't really count. It's like an outlier. But the guy's injury prone. So he missed a lot of time with injury, can do a lot of things and has the ability in the right system, maybe playing with better players, can do some things. I thought it was an okay trade. I don't think you gave up a lot. I mean, giving up 2 second-rounders doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot. I think it was a nice thing to do to change up the flow a little bit. I think defensively, if Bagley can pick it up a little bit and pick up some skill sets and really work towards fitting in and maybe enjoying the fresh start, maybe working for a contract and things like that, it can be something great. But because collectively, it is tough to watch the Pistons, man. It is brutal. They fundamentally just fall off the face of the earth far too often. And Killian Hayes is up and down. The injury to Cade Cunningham put a damper on a stretch there. So this Pistons team, it's tough to find positive things to talk about because you're on the verge of drafting in the top 4 yet again.
Yeah, and look, the Marvin Bagley trade, it doesn't really do anything for me. Doesn't really make me excited because I'm not really sure he's going to be here for the long term. Right now, it seems like they went out, they grabbed a guy who they feel that they can rehabilitate, almost like Jeremy Grant, right? They went out, grabbed Jeremy Grant, rehabilitated him, and they didn't get to trade him at the trade deadline, so they're looking to trade him on draft night, is what's going to happen. So Marvin Bagley might be the same deal, right? They get him in, and next thing you know, they rehabilitate him, and they end up moving on from him in acquiring more draft capital. That's kind of the way I see this working out, and I see this playing out. The Detroit Pistons right now, incredibly frustrating. But I think, kind of to what you said, where they're at right now, this bodes well. This draft in the NBA is very top-heavy. There are probably 5 or 6 really good guys who could make a dramatic impact on this team. So what you're seeing is you're seeing them acquire young pieces and starting to put them together. And look, I didn't really have high expectations for this season. I did want to see them building off of what we got last year. We really didn't get that. We really haven't had that for whatever reason. What we are going to get, at least the hope is what we are going to get is we're going to get another young player. We're going to get to add them to the core, and you're going to basically have hopefully your big three or your big four. I don't know if any of these guys are going to be all-star level talents, but if you can get a big four, and again, you can go back to the 2004 Pistons. They did it with basically a big five, and really and truly it was a monster four, and then you had Tayshaun. So you can do it, and you can win different ways. I think what you're seeing, though, is this team is trying to build this nucleus. They're trying to find odds and ends, right? Like spare parts. And they're trying to refurbish those spare parts. And maybe those spare parts play a role long term. Maybe those spare parts get you something more that helps you for that long term. I think Jeremy Grant, I was really surprised he wasn't traded. I think Jeremy Grant is gone before the start of the season. I think he gets traded. I think what you're going to have with Marvin Bagley is you're going to have a guy who's going to be here. They're going to see if he can work and if he can fit. And if he does, they'll probably extend him out for 2 years and, again, rehab him and then trade him off, get something else in return, and you'll start to see this team really take that step forward. You've heard the front office for the Pistons basically come out and say, we need to have some veterans here, right? We need to have a couple of older guys show these young guys how to be professional. And I think that's very important. I don't think that gets talked about enough, and I don't think that gets enough credit. I mean, if you think about any time that you've ever gone into a job, you've had to have been shown how to do something, right? You had to have been shown how to do what it is that you're doing. You had to have been trained in order to be able to conduct yourself a certain way. You had to lean on other people and get other insight in how to carry yourself in certain situations. So I think what you have there, you've got a guy like Jeremy Grant who's a veteran. When they move on from him, you're now going to have a guy like Marvin Bagley. So you get younger guys in there. He now becomes a veteran leader in that locker room and shows them how to be a professional. And I think that's what you've got going on. You're basically trying to coach up the young guys so they can then put their foot down and they can really take off. And you're bringing in these veteran odds and ends, rehabbing them, and then trading them off for better parts. And that's what I think they're doing here.
Okay. How much are you celebrating? Your boy Jim is back, baby. He's here till 2026, baby. Jim Harbaugh staying at Michigan. Now, I think it's room to celebrate for me because you lost Mike McDonald, you lost Josh Gaddis, you lost Aiden Hutchinson, you lost David Ojabo, you lost, the safety. So I think the schedule everyone's relying upon to be saving grace for you. You still got talent across the board, but there may be just a little bit more struggles here and there. But my God, Jim Harbaugh gets to stay, baby, and he gets a new contract. So I think, my honest opinion, his flirting's done. I think this was more of a kind of a enjoyment for him to stick it to Michigan a little bit, just to flush out his ego after having his salary cut. He's going to be there, and he's going to be there for the foreseeable future. I think college football is going to be real interesting in the next couple years, but I'm so happy for you, cuz I know you're thrilled. I know you're giddy. I know you got to change your pants.
Yeah. I seen the news break, and I seen he's extended to like 2026, and I was like, oh. Great. And like, there was like no excitement. There was nothing. It was just kind of, it was like you just got done having sex with your girlfriend and you've got nothing left. You gave her everything you got. And she's like, hey, you want to go again? And you're just kind of like, I basically gave you it all. I don't got nothing else. It's like a wet noodle right now. I could try to get a stick and I could try to shove it in there with a stick, but it isn't going to do anything. We're pretty much done here. And that's how I feel about Jim Harbaugh. It's like I could get a stick and I could try to shove it in here, but you know what? I'm pretty much done here. There's no excitement. There's no nothing. I think the Michigan program is basically stuck where they're going to be at.
Oh, bro, I didn't tell you. I probably am damn near addicted to Viagra. Bro, it adds life to everything and lets you go 3, 4, 5, 6 times if you need to. I know that's the visual you want to see.
How do you have reserves like that? Yeah, I don't necessarily.
No, I'm just messing around. The funny thing is, I don't know if you ever watch some of these comics, but there's always one that's just like, I can't remember exactly who, but he said like just one night, everybody's got to do it where you just take a Viagra and you just give it like the best effort that you ever give. I think it was Cat Williams. It was so funny the way he delivered it. But, I've not done it yet. But the thought popped in my mind. Okay, what would happen if I took one? Would I go like 45 minutes and just like wear out my back and things like that? But, I think you and I are in the same boat where we're just like, okay, one and done, call it a day. Is the Sopranos on or so let's see, let's turn on some hoops. Let's see what's going on here. Adam's like, my God, go again. You're like, my God, I can't do that. I can't do that at all. But yeah, with Jim Harbaugh and the program, it does kind of have the feel of like you're excited, to get down and have fun. And then she says, oh, I got a headache. And then you're like, what? And you're left there just still with the opportunity to handle it, and you just nothing there. And for Michigan, I'll say this. I do want to say this. This quarterback thing is going to be great to observe. Does JJ fight to get this job? I think that Michigan has something there that could be something. He's got that dual threat, got that opportunity. If he can develop into a passer, then you have something. So we'll see as it progresses. But that was the other big thing that went on Wednesday was that Jim Harbaugh is back. Make sure everybody, you follow Adam on Twitter, a great follow, at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Anywhere you enjoy and find podcasts, make sure you type in Detroit Sports Podcast, and our content will find you. Great content dedicated to Michigan, Lions, Tigers, Wings, less and less Matthew Stafford as we hit the off season. So thanks everybody for tuning in. I really appreciate the opportunity you let me have and Adam to let it rip, tell our side of things, and to really move forward and see what these Lions are going to do. The Combine's coming up, free agency, the draft. Good shit is still ahead. Football 24/7, and the Doc and Jock podcast will be here to cover all things in Detroit sports. Podcasting time is now coming to a close. Got to wrap this baby up, cause I can't wait till next Thursday to talk to you.